a talk this morning about the policy context and what some of the draft legislation is saying, particularly around how it can help young people move into adulthood with better lives. What Kath and I are going to try and do is say what that means in practice and talk about some of the things that's been happening in Manchester. But I think before I do anything, I wanted to put what you're doing today in context of a journey that you've been on for many years. You're doing some fantastic work with the SEN Pathfinder to try and see how we can help young people, young disabled people, move into adulthood with much better lives, better life outcomes. But you didn't just start it with the Pathfinder. You've been doing really hard work around this before. So we worked with you through the Getting a Life programme, and I'll talk a little bit about that for people that haven't been involved. But what you learned through that programme for that 3 years really helped inform what went into the SEN Green Paper. So all of the key lessons that young people and families told us in Manchester found their way into that draft legislation. Now you're helping testing it, and we hope will help take it forward. So it's really good. And I think one of the points that I wanted to make about that is when we first started working with Manchester with Getting a Life, the first thing we asked you to do is to say, with young people and families, and Helena and Kath were some of the families that were involved, was, what is your vision of success? You know, when we look back in 3 years' time, what will we have seen? What did we want to see? Where do we want to get to? What does a good life look like for disabled young people in Manchester? And you said lots of things like getting a job, having friends, relationships, good health, being part of our local communities, lots of good housing options, lots of things like that. Now, what we know, and what many organisations in Manchester know, is that there are lots of barriers to disabled people achieving those life chances. Organisations like Breakthrough UK have been working to challenge those barriers for years and years in Manchester. And that sort of change that you're embarking on doesn't happen overnight. And one of the important things to do is think about how you will keep yourselves strong and how you'll support each other through these changes. And one of the ways to do that, one of the things that it's really important to do, is to celebrate the successes that you've made so far. Because otherwise I think people get tired on the journey. If we're always looking at the vision, which we must do, it's very easy to get worn out along the way. So let's celebrate some of the successes. So as a Getting a Life site, you worked with, I think we had about 20 to 30 young people who had learning disabilities. And we're looking at what does it take for them to move into adulthood with getting a job and a full life. And I think the things that you really achieved in Manchester was a very different conversation about transition. You know, we moved on from just talking about moving from children's services to adult services to really thinking about getting a life. Anne, on the Preparing for Adulthood video, Anne Tarpey, she talks about what she really learned was the importance of aspirations, believing that Dominic could get a job and that Dominic could get the job that he'd love. And it's fantastic to hear about the drama course that he's gone on to, the college that he's gone on to. I think you really developed, and people like Laura and Anna and lots of the families that were involved really developed our understanding about person-centred planning and person-centred approaches and how we embed that in schools and the importance of that.